There we go. Now we get the legendary Burt Watson joining us. Very much appreciate your time, sir. A legend in the sport, a man of all myths. Just an incredible opportunity to interview you today, sir. So tell
Hey,
us a little bit. Go ahead.
no, I'm happy to be here, baby.
So tell us a little bit about people that don't even know who you are as far as in the industry or anything. Tell us a bit about how you got your start, how you ended up being into the UFC, and then just kind of how you are today. Tell us your life story a little bit.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to tell. I'm an old man.
Well, I guess
But
the best question to ask is just how did you get connected to the UFC in 2001?
well, if for those of you who don't know, I actually started my career in boxing
Hmm.
and started back with Smoking Joe Frazier was my introductory into the world of boxing and kind of I knew him as a person, knew him as a man, knew him as a fighter. As a matter of fact, my very first boxing event for me, which I went to a boxing party, kind of say, because tickets weren't available, and I lived in New York. So my very first boxing event was March 8th, 1971.
Holy cow.
And that was when Joe fought Muhammad Ali,
Hmm.
and that was my very first boxing event. I knew Joe Frazier, and later on we eventually became friends. And one thing led to another, as I always say, my chance meetings.
Hmm.
That's how I met him. And coincidentally, we both lived in Philadelphia, and he trained and lived and had a gym in Philadelphia. I lived in New York, but I'm originally from Philadelphia. That's where my
Yeah,
parents were. I grew up in Philadelphia. I always say I'm a hood rat with an education, baby.
that'll work.
From Philadelphia to Nebraska, where I went to school.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, not too
But
far from us here in Denver.
is that where you are?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was wondering if you guys knew where we were. Yeah, yeah. We're based out of here in Denver, Colorado, so the home of the UFC. So
I
yeah.
went to a little small school in Scottsbluff, Nebraska,
Oh, nice. Okay.
Hiram Scott College. You know,
Really? Okay.
back in the day.
Yeah. Now, how was that transition from Philly all the way out to Nebraska? That had to be a
That
eye
was
opener.
that was more than an eye opener, bro. I actually went out there and had never really been out of the country out of the city on a plane. First time on a plane. I went out there on Frontier Airlines, which at the time was the biggest airline or the way to get out there. So that
Yeah.
was definitely. I went from the streets of Philadelphia to the cornrows of Nebraska,
Oh, that's crazy.
and that was. And I'm talking about in late '60s, bro.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When it
No-
was it was different, but it was excellent. It was good. And
Yeah.
moving on, I left college. I went from college to the Marine Corps.
Nice.
I spent 3.5 years in the Marine Corps, 3 years in the Marine Corps during the Vietnam era. Went over on a ship. I did a med cruise, the whole 9 yards. Got into boxing and chance meeting with Joe Frazier, and from that point, that set me up to working and as a consultant and as a coordinator, which I eventually became in boxing, in professional boxing,
Hmm.
working with Joe Frazier and his cousins and his sons and Marvis and Hector and Joe Jr. and all those, the whole family, and eventually even the daughter. I got to work with Joe's daughter and Muhammad Ali's daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Layla
actually,
Ali. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah.
actually worked the fight that those two did together,
Yeah. Yeah.
2008, which for me was
Yeah.
was Ali Frazier 4.
Yeah. Exactly.
Another chance meeting, and got to know them very well, and got to work with other fighters and other networks, and eventually I went on after leaving Joe, which was I think in '97 or '90. here about 96 or 97 when things were starting to get a little slow, and I was still coordinating, but then some other opportunities came along, and I took advantage of them, and ended up coordinating for other organizations and television networks and HBO and Showtime and USA and Don King and Bob Arum and Lou Duva, and I actually got to coordinate some other boxing events, and then it graduated to major events, and I worked from 1981 or 82 to 2008, because I think 2008 or 2009, because I was actually with the UFC and working some boxing events
Oh, okay.
at the same time, because
Okay.
I was actually working with the Klitschko brothers,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and that was a pretty high level, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and pretty important for them to have their crew intact. So
Hmm.
I was a part of that crew and coordinating their events, both of them.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Vitaly and Vladimir. Yeah.
yes, and the
Yeah.
UFC at the time started off. I think the least amount of fights I remember doing early in the beginning of the UFC was maybe 5 fights,
Okay.
and it went on to 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 20, 25, 30, 35. You know,
Yeah.
I think the most I ever did in 1 year with them was 37, maybe
Really? Okay. Yeah, because you
38.
saw the evolution, especially like in your interview with Randy Couture back in the day, especially like in 2001. You only had like 5 events a year, anyways. You didn't have fight nights. You didn't have, extra stuff on the side either.
No, it was. So I had, I had the time to work in boxing events. So I did that, and I actually worked with, I mean, Roy Jones, Sugar Ray Leonard, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya. I always say the only boxer from 1981 to 2000 that I never worked with was Lennox Lewis.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else you can name, I've worked with them or an event or did an event with them.
Now, what do
And
you think that is with Lennox Lewis? Was it just maybe because he had a British crew, or how did that usually work out with him? Just the way it
primarily
worked out?
because he had a British crew, he was there, and then at the time I was also, as I said, I was still with the Klitschko brothers,
Hmm.
but the UFC was coming along and other things were happening, and the majority initially, I think a lot of Lennox Lewis's fights were out of the U.S. So
Hmm.
that just
Exactly.
didn't
Yeah.
work out. But believe me, at the time I had my hands full.
Yeah. So Lennox was just an added
Yeah,
addition
yeah,
to it,
yeah,
either the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't need too much distractions or much more on the plate because I was juggling,
Yeah.
and I actually did a fight. I think it was Kostya Tszyu and Zab Judah
Okay.
in Vegas, and the promoter, the guy that hired me to do that fight, went to his office one day in between the weigh-in, and believe me, I still get that confused as to exactly what fight that was that I was doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But
A lot of fights.
yeah, he was on the phone with somebody, and I went into his office again. A chance. I went to his office, and as I was leaving his office, he said, "Wait a minute." He said, "I got a guy that's getting ready to do some things, and he needs to hire somebody. He needs some help." Had no idea what it was. I just heard and knew it was work.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I was good to go. So he said, "Listen, I'm gonna have the guy come over and you meet him, and we'll go from there." That guy was Dana White,
Nice. Okay.
and I got introduced to Dana. Didn't really know who Dana was.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
did,
At the
didn't
time, not many people knew who Dana White was. Yeah.
right. Didn't know very much. No, I won't say very much. Didn't know anything
Hmm.
about mixed martial arts and grappling and wrestling, and jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. I didn't know. I knew of it
Hmm.
because I was in sports,
Yeah.
but wasn't that familiar with it. And my thing at the time was, hey, you know what? You pay me, respect me, you got me.
Yeah, exactly.
And he did that.
Now, with the Fertitta brothers, did they come into play later? Obviously, because they were the signing the checks. Did you have a good relationship with Frank? Because Frank seems to be on the background, but Lorenzo's the guy that's usually in the crowd.
Well, initially, when they initially came on, it was Dana and Lorenzo and
Mhm.
Frank at
Yeah,
times, but
yeah. You see him
the
every
three
once
of
in a
them
while.
were always around, and I knew that those three were the guys that ran and owned Zuffa,
Hmm.
and those were the guys that I reported to directly because I got hired directly by Dana.
Yeah.
And Lorenzo was a little more active than Frank was, and that's primarily because they had so many other things going on. They had the Red Rock Hotel and Casino in Vegas, and they had
Yep.
other things going on. And the Red Rock was gorgeous; it was a palace.
Yeah.
So much so, I don't think they wanted the UFC fighting in the in the Red
Yeah.
Rock.
I don't blame you. Yeah, because it is a beautiful facility. Still
It
is.
was.
Yeah.
So those they were involved, and the very first event I did was UFC 30,
Okay.
and that was in Atlantic City, and
Yep.
that was my very first event, first intro to MMA, mixed martial arts, uh, intro to Kevin Randleman, Mark Coleman,
Yeah. Yeah. Two legends. Yeah.
Bill Baroni, and if I'm not mistaken, the BJ Penn was making his pro debut.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
It was one of the two, either 30 or 31.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of got involved
Yeah.
with that, and it just I was doing the shows, and I got very close to Joe Silva.
Hmm.
And at the time, the crew was very small.
Yeah.
It was Dana, Joe Silva, and they had a young lady there by the name of Lisa, who was later replaced by Donna Marcolini, who became the head, tail, and everything else.
Hmm.
But it was very small and very close, and it was very connected and very family oriented,
Hmm.
and it was the majority of the guys there. And I think initially Dana had I think either promotional or managerial connections to Tito and Chuck.
Yeah. Yep. I heard that. Yeah.
So that was kind of a natural fit, but I had no idea. I was going
Hmm.
along with the ride, and I was never ever told what to do or how to do it. I was always given the opportunity, which was a blessing
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was given the opportunity to get the job done.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Put together, and Joe made the matches and gave me the fighters and the names. And once the matches were made, and I was given the fighters and given the list, then I had to coordinate with them travel,
Hmm.
hotels, air and ground transportation, workout equipment, rooms, setting up the workouts, getting the equipment off the truck into a room and setting up, getting to the hotel ahead of everybody to create what we needed to
Hmm.
function and what we needed to work in, workout space. And there was a big disparity between boxing and MMA.
Hmm.
Because right now I'm in my office. This is
Yeah.
Burtville,
Yeah. Yeah.
Burtville that I'm
I
in
see.
right
I
now.
see Muhammad over your left shoulder.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got Muhammad, I got Rampage over here, and I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
UFC Chad Mendez, and I got my trophy right there that I'm so proud of, that lifetime achievement from the magazine award.
Nice.
But I said this to say that for boxing, I could use this and put 2, 3 boxers in here because they stand up. They
Hmm.
didn't roll around and grapple and anything like that. So there wasn't a lot of space, and that's what I was used to. Then when I got with the UFC, Zuffa, MMA, I realized that I couldn't put a guy in a room this small because they were rolling around and on the floor, and I needed mats.
Yeah.
That was a change for me because none of the hotels, the dressing rooms were made for entertainers and entertainment. Dressing rooms were not made for MMA.
Yeah, they weren't. When you roll the mats out, they were definitely not used to it. Now, when they had like some of the ones that they had the convention centers or the ballrooms, were you able to use those at all, or you just had to improvise?
I had to get creative. I had to get creative and create a space. I knew initially I needed a 10 by 10, 15 by 15 for one dressing room. And I know that I could, in that one dressing room, even with that amount of space, I could probably only put 2 people in there because you had one fighter and each fighter had 3 people. So you had 6 guys, and regardless of the size of the fighter, the camps were big. The guys were big guys.
Oh yeah.
And it got to be a bit of a challenge. But I worked it out as I went along because like I said, I had nobody really telling me what to do or how to do it. But I could very well, as a coordinator and putting things together, I could see what I needed. So I went to the hotels, the managers and the directors of the hotel, and because we were paying the bills and getting that many rooms, they gave us the space we needed. So I had to get creative. I had some of their office space I had to use. I had to get some pipe and drape and create office spaces and workout spaces, and they had to be secured.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, especially like back in the day when you were. We got some feedback. See, like in 2001, when you were doing stuff with different fighters, they had a lot of the crews together, like Tim Sylvia, Pat Miletich, some of these other fighters, Robbie Lawler, all together. I'm trying to figure out why the feedback's so bad. There you go. And I'm just basically trying to figure out as far as like the crew.
How's are you getting feedback from me, or are you good?
No, it's only me. I don't know what's the deal on my end. So you're perfect. I don't know what's going on with my end. Can you hear me better now? Yeah, that's a lot better now. Okay. Yeah, it's basically, I was just saying as far as the crew goes, you have a lot of guys in one crew and they're all just running together. You just had to kind of figure that out as well, where you just had to make sure that all the training partners are in one room.
Totally had to figure that out. First of all, I had to make sure I had enough space. And if I had enough space and I was able to open out and spread around a little bit, then I could create what I needed to with the guys that I had, the people that I had. So, pipe and drape and different office spaces. And sometimes the hotel, they had ballrooms and conventions, and I had to cut it off and put it together. But then I had to create a system for the fighters to work with and work within. So my system was, I spoke to them on the phone, I got their flights, I got the time that they arrived, the time that they departed, the time that they arrived, and I coordinated a sheet for the arrivals and the pickups of everybody. And then once I did that, when they came on, the first person they saw was me. Now, keep in mind, I had already been to the hotel. I had already coordinated their rooms. I had to coordinate everybody's room. And when I say coordinate, I mean coordinated. Because I had to look at a bout sheet and work out the guys that were fighting each other, the guys that worked out together, and the camps that were traveling together. So if you and I were fighting each other, I didn't put you and I in the same room next to each other.
Exactly. Yeah,
okay. Or even on the same floor.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I had to worry about it, but out of respect for what we were doing, out of respect for the fighters. I never put them in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
So I had to create that, and I did, and so once I had all that set up and all that created, and then I had to set up the workout rooms, and I had to get mats to put in the workout rooms, and then once I had that set up, I had to get scales.
Yeah.
I needed certified scales for these guys because when they came there, That's the first thing they did. So once I had all that set up, then I had to get into the office and sit down and wait for the guys to come in. Because I had guys at the airport picking everybody up. If you were involved in that fight and you were flying in on a plane, I had you listed. I had you picked up. And that was everybody from the fighters, the camps, the ring card girls, ladies,
Yeah.
the production crew, you know, the television crew, anybody that came in and I had any access to doing their flights, then I had them picked up. If I didn't do your flights, then I didn't. But I made sure that I had everybody that I needed. I had their flight because I coordinated the travel.
Yeah.
And I sat down and read everything, and I had it set out so I knew. Guys came in, first thing they did was they got picked up at the airport. They saw somebody that either had on a UFC shirt or had a sign with their name on it, baby. That's the first thing I did.
Class act. Yeah, class act. That's how it works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they got in, and then they got picked up, and they got brought to me, and the first thing I did was took you on the scale. Because I needed to, I knew what the about she said that your weight needed to be. I needed to know where you were in terms of your weight. So I took you and I put you on the scale, and I did that, and I checked it. And if it was wrong, if it was a little too much, I got with you. Okay. But also it was a little different in boxing during the fight week. If a guy was 4 pounds over what the weight needed to be, or 5 pounds, we had a major catastrophe.
Yeah.
You know, the fight maybe didn't happen. Then I got the MMA, and some of these guys showed up.
20. Yeah.
I saw them, I was like, whoa!
Yeah.
You know, but before I freaked out, let me try to understand this. So I got to understand it, and I got to work on it. And during the time of bringing them in and checking their weights and checking everybody's weight, then I got to talk to them. I got to know who they were with, who they worked out with, where they trained. I got to know the different gyms. So putting these guys in training rooms and dressing rooms during the course of the week, or even before they came there, I knew how to do that because I knew who worked with each other. You got guys like Tim Sylvia and Matt Hughes and Jens Pulver and Jeremy Horn and all those guys that worked together. I knew that.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, I knew that from conversations and doing my homework. So when they came in and they were there, I had that set up and I was ready. I was ready to go. And I had a facility for them to cut weight, to work out. I had a sauna set up. I had a grocery run set up. You know, I saw this weekend, and I don't want to throw shade, but I saw the fight tonight. How many people miss weight?
4. Including a person that was 12 pounds overweight. Most in UFC history.
Let me tell you something. You heard what you just said. Most in UFC history.
Yep.
I don't think I had 4 people in 1 year, baby.
No.
You know,
and that was going to be my next question, so I'm glad you already answered it for me. Yeah, we were just literally talking about that right before you got on air, that, you know, when you go over 12 pounds, and then his excuse was he ate bad salmon, and basically he had medical issues, and his doctor said to basically, you know, hydrate yourself so that he basically put back all the water weight.
Right.
But obviously, you know, that could be excuse and stuff like that, but yeah, 12 pounds. And even Rumble Johnson, he has a second with 11.5 pounds over, and that just never happened under your watch. You know, what is it? Is it just really somebody running it wrong? Or?
Well, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm sitting here looking. I spelled my own name wrong.
I saw that. Yeah, I was like, okay. I thought, you know what? I thought it was like a cool little initial or something like that, like a nickname or something you were going.
No. I think I did that when I was typing it in so fast.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. No. Hey, your shirt says it anyway, sir. They already know what it is anyway, so.
You know, it's there is no excuse for not making weight.
Yeah.
None. And 2 things that I laid the law down was that you made weight and you were always on time.
Mm-hmm.
You did that, and I would make sure that you got everything you need, anytime you need it, wherever you need it, when you need it. And I could mess with you, and I'd never let anybody else mess with you. But I stayed on. When these guys came in and I checked their weight and I saw their weight, I got to know the guys that would have trouble making weight.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know the guys and the ones who would come in at a certain weight and whatever weight. And I got used to guys coming in, 10 pounds over. I knew how to work with between 10 to 15 pounds. I knew how to work with that. And I knew what they needed to do. So I stayed on them. Phone calls after phone calls after phone calls. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? That kind of thing, to let them know that I had my eyes on it.
Yeah.
That I was watching it. And I think the first time I had something bite me in the ASS. I think it was Travis Lutter against Anderson Silva.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for the title. Okay.
That was a title fight.
Yeah.
I got bit with that one. I said, never again.
Yeah. Well, and Travis Lutter, if you guys don't know about the history behind that, Travis Lutter basically missed weight and was able to basically win the title from Anderson Silva if he would have won it. Fortunately, everything was fine because Anderson Silva ended up beating him, so it was all good. Yeah.
But that was a lesson for me. But to have guys not make weight, first of all, is on them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't put that on anybody else.
Yeah.
If I go down the scale, then I'll start laying out a blame sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But from the offset, as a professional, you make weight. They had 4 guys and 3 guys and 1 lady, I think.
Yeah. It
was 4 people.
Yeah, Ketlin Vieira. Yeah, 3 guys and Ketlin Vieira. Yeah, so the co-main event though, Ketlin Vieira is in the co-main event, and she still missed weight. So that's crazy too.
There's no excuse for that.
Yeah,
and there's no excuse for somebody staying on top of them and making sure that happens, and staying in their ear and seeing where they are. If the fight is Saturday, fighters arrive on Monday or Tuesday, depending on where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. And you need to get in the crack of their neck on Tuesday. Check their weight, see where they are, see what it is. And then at that point, you start communicating. I want to keep this clean because kids watch things. So
yeah.
You communicate with them, okay, and right in the crack of their neck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. And that's what I was going to ask you too, because it seemed like you were always on them on Wednesday all the way up leading up to Saturday night. So I think that was the big difference as well. So
100% I was on them. And listen, man, I got a sauna. Mm-hmm. I got a place for you to work out. Mm-hmm. That I made sure the workout rooms were at a minimum 65 degrees. Mm-hmm. I made sure there was mats, there was towels. If they needed Epsom salt or whatever, I learned all the different things that guys and ladies needed to do to cut weight, and I was on them. I think during my course of time, there were maybe 3 guys that came in and were 10 pounds or over that I didn't really worry about. Mm-hmm. Gleason Tabal was one. Dennis Seaver was another that I didn't worry about, and Anderson Silva I didn't worry. There were a lot of other guys, but I'm just saying that those, I learned with them not to worry about a lot of others. But it was. I think it's most disrespectful, not only to yourself, but to the sport and the craft. Yeah. And production and the promoter for you to come in and not make weight, baby.
Well, not only that, it just seems like there's a lot of things with it when you look at the big picture too. It's also that it's almost a way of cheating because some of these guys are going like 4 or 5 pounds overweight. They're almost in another weight division. Some of them could be going to the weight division they haven't been in years, and it's a real clear advantage.
Yeah. Well, and also, I don't care who it is, regardless of what amount of weight you lose, everybody puts on between 10 to 15 pounds the
Yeah, after
next
you cut the
day.
weight. Yeah, exactly.
You cut the weight. Everybody.
Oh yeah.
So you all, you go back to that. But then again, 100%, my opinion, guys need to be watched.
Mhm.
You need to stay behind them. You need to reinforce it. And I say guys, because I didn't have a lot of problems with the ladies making weight or not, or cutting weight. Never,
Yeah.
I never had that problem with the ladies. And I'm sitting here thinking about it. It might get me in trouble, but hell.
Yeah, no, I think you're right because I think sometimes where you're having female fighters and they're not in the limelight like a Ronda Rousey and stuff like that, there's a lot of bottom of the line or middle of the line trying to work their way up, and then you
Yeah.
got a lot of males that are divas, and especially with you being in the boxing industry, you probably saw that a lot. So there was a lot of guys that just said, "Oh, I'm going to do whatever I want, whenever I want," type of attitude.
Yeah, but when they come to you or to me that week of,
Hmm.
you check the divaism and
Yeah,
the attitudes at the door
yeah,
because I checked mine,
yeah, yeah,
and I made it a point that I didn't treat Matt Serra as a rookie
hmm,
any different than I did Chuck Liddell
yeah,
or Randy Couture as the champion or George
hmm,
St. Pierre as the
yeah,
champion. Everybody got treated the same.
hmm,
Everybody had the same treatment, the same workout room. They got the same amount of food money. They got the same, what you negotiated in your purse that was yours,
hmm,
But I also saw that the purses across the board were fairly even
yeah,
and made sense to me,
yeah,
as opposed to boxing. So there was no excuse.
yeah,
And I would even now, I do boxing events, and I'm sorry, I do events. I did my own event June 12th of 2019, my very first that I put this on it.
uh-huh.
Okay? Very first time I ever did an event with Burt Watson on it. I've done it
Yeah,
for everybody else. I did it for me.
yeah,
But it's the integrity of the sport, the integrity of what you do is totally on the line by you showing up, making weight, showing up on time, and performing.
yeah,
Period.
yeah.
There's no other way.
Now, obviously, early in your time, and it was around the first time I was watching really the UFC and MMA as a whole. You had people like the Lions Den with, Ken Shamrock and all these guys, where they would get into it with Tito Ortiz, and it made it seem like it was really serious. Did you guys have to separate them with hotels or rooms or anything like that, or was it just more of a you just kind of watch them and got from there?
I did that, and as I told you earlier in the conversation, I
Hmm.
did that anyway, out of
Yeah.
respect for the sport. And I
Hmm.
learned that from boxing, that when guys are fighting each other, it's a whole nother level, baby. And fight week, it's a whole nother level and a whole nother level of intensity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys respect each other, but fight week, I'm getting ready to fight you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
best way for me to do that is to disrespect you.
Hmm.
So knowing that and knowing how it is, I made it a point to separate guys and made it a point that the rooms were on different floors. That's the first thing I started.
Yeah.
Red corner on one floor, blue corner on another floor, different sides of the hotels or different areas, and now they stay where they want to. But for the most part, when those guys had when you saw animosity, it was real.
Hmm.
Nothing was staged.
Yeah.
Nothing was enhanced
Yeah.
or did we magnify it.
Yeah.
We just didn't take the camera off of it. But it was real. It
Yeah.
was real. And
Yeah.
I understood that. So I made sure that during the course of certain things, I was present, or I
Hmm.
had guys present. I had people there during the course of press conferences and work. I always coordinated entrances
Hmm.
and where guys sat and how they came in. Regardless, I always coordinated that because I didn't, and times that they showed up, that I did first,
Yeah.
so that they weren't always showing up together. There were times you had to do that, but I made sure if they did, I was there, and guys that worked with me was there because it was real. There
Yeah.
was nobody was pretending
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Especially people like Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz, where they don't pull punches no matter what. So
At all. And when
mean both of them, they don't.
at the press conference where he picked that chair up and
Yeah. Yeah. Kicked
threw
it
it,
up in
I mean
there. Yeah.
that was real. That was
Yeah.
I mean it. There was one instance I think where Nate Diaz,
Yeah. Hmm.
Nate or Nick, I think it
Hmm.
was fought. Jumped on Joe Riggs at the hospital.
It was Nick. Yeah. Yeah. It was Nick.
That
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
staged.
No, it wasn't at all.
That
No,
wasn't
and
staged.
and I was there at the weigh-ins for Vanderlei and Rampage when they first fought there for the light heavyweight title, and Vanderlei literally pushed him almost off the stage, and literally Rampage literally howls to the cameras, and it was one of the coolest things. And obviously, it was my first ever UFC weigh-ins in Vegas, and you couldn't have scripted any better than that. Because
Yeah.
Vanderlei and Rampage, two both incredible guys. Vanderlei I've been able to interview and Rampage. He fought here in Denver a couple years back with John Jones. So just to see those guys' intensity and the hatred they had for each other, but they were going for a UFC strap. So that's what it ended up coming to.
100%. And now I get a chance for a dirty plug because
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm now doing I'm doing my own little, I call it OG chatter,
Yeah, yeah,
called Legends to Legends, where I sit and talk with various guys, who I consider legends of the sport,
hmm,
and that's any sport,
yeah,
legends.
yeah,
And I can legitimately talk about things, especially with these guys in MMA that I know about, that I
yeah,
worked with, and that
yeah,
I've experienced it. And I just and I and I'm it came to mind because I just got through. The episode is live now on YouTube.
nice.
Legends to Legends with Rampage,
Yeah, yeah,
and he talks a lot about it. And I get, it's OG chatter. It's
yeah,
not an interview. It's conversation.
yeah,
And one of the things I wanted to know was where he got that name
yeah,
Rampage
yeah,
and where he got that attitude. And he
yeah,
told me it
yeah,
was since he was a child. They
yeah.
used his own cousins and nieces and brothers and sisters used to beat him up, and it
Yeah.
was it was
Well, they got it from the video game too, which a lot of people thought that's where it
yes.
came from. Yeah, but we're like, okay, maybe it's the arcade game that he got it from, and sure as hell, that's exactly where it came from.
He said he used to play that arcade, and I never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
See,
But
and as a kid growing up in video games like Atari and stuff, I kind of figured that's what it was. But that basically confirms with your interview. And the other good part is, I love when he was talking about Ricardo Arona over in Pride, and he
yes,
basically acted like he got knocked out, but he gave basically some ridiculously up kicks, and he just literally power bound. I've seen a couple power bombs in person. One of them was the last WEC event where the guy got knocked out, power bombed on the side of his head, and he was
wow,
out for probably about 10 minutes or so down in Glendale, Arizona. And I swear, I was looking at the ambulance backstage and everything. I'm like, is this guy all right? Because I've seen guys knocked out cold and gruesome injuries, but when I saw that guy literally get power bombed on the side of his head, it reminded me a lot of the Rona and Rampage, and
yeah,
you never know what could happen.
that one and maybe not as awesome.
Mm.
And if you can use the word awesome
It
slam,
is for us. It's worried about, but yeah, yeah,
you know,
definitely not health conscious. Yeah.
in MMA it was awesome. You
Mhm.
know, then you saw the one where I think Matt Hughes and Carlos
Yeah.
Newton,
Yep.
where
Yeah.
he slammed, and both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There was a question that both of them were out
Yeah. Yeah.
when
And
they
same
went
thing
down.
with Carlos Newton. He basically landed on his side of his head too.
Yeah,
So
yes.
it was
But
a
you
thing
gotta,
where
you
he.
gotta check out the next Legend of Legends with Matt Hughes, and he'll tell you whether he's
There we
knocked out
go.
or not.
Yeah.
You
Now,
know.
how is Matt Hughes doing these days? Obviously, with the accident and stuff, I've got to meet him a bunch of times. Especially he fought at UFC 150 for his retirement fight against Koscheck. You know,
Yeah.
he was a completely different man than what he is now. How is he doing as far as speech and everything like that?
You know, it's humorous that his personality is still he still has the humor, and in the interview on Legends to Legends,
Yep.
okay, about to come out, I asked him about it, and Matt Hughes, being Matt Hughes, he said, "Well, it was only a train." I was like, "Okay," but that's to say he gave me that answer.
Mhm.
That tells you how he is. I mean, obviously he was seriously injured. Uh, uh, he had brain injury
Mhm.
and some other spinal stuff, but
Yeah.
he slowly has made his way back to his speech is getting better, and his awareness is getting better. But he lived.
Hmm.
He
Yeah, and
lived
that's the most
through it,
important part. Yeah.
and that's amazing. And to sit and have a conversation with him, it was pretty amazing, especially when I sat with him as a rookie,
Hmm.
and I've known him that long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember when he came in, it was him and his twin brother. A lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
people don't even know Matt has a twin brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You so it was interesting. It's all been very interesting. The road that I've gone through, and I've traveled, and listening to the guys, like the interview I did with Rampage,
Hmm.
and he was talking about who hit him
Yeah. Yeah.
the hardest he ever got hit.
Yeah.
And I would have, and I think he said it was Chuck,
Yeah. 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 He said it was Chuck, and yeah.
and I would have never known that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would have never known that. And
Yeah.
he said the toughest person he ever fought was Kevin Randleman. I
Yeah.
would have
Yeah.
never put that in there.
Yeah. Well, and
Okay.
I thought it was pretty interesting. Is in your interview, he basically said that Sakuraba and John Jones were the best, black belt or
Yeah.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu technicians.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously UFC 135 happened here at the Pepsi Center in Denver when he fought John Jones for the title. So I was there front and center. So that was great to see.
Wow.
Yeah, so
And I
we
love
get to see some
Denver.
history. Yeah, tell us. You know what? And that from a legend like yourself, there's been so many coaches and so many people that have hit me up to say just how much they've loved you over the years. And when they work, Coach Leister Bowling wanted me to give you a shout out. Just so many
Oh,
people
my
that love you
man.
so much. Yeah, they just love you so much. Tell us a little bit about some of the stories that you know from Denver, or just even traveling out here. What's some of the stories you could tell us about?
It's. I think the one thing that I really liked about Denver was the people that were there, and the arena,
Hmm.
and the warm greetings that we got
Yeah.
from Denver, and I'm trying to think of the exact fighters that got lost in Denver.
Yeah. Yeah, when I interviewed Art Davey, I interviewed him, and he basically was telling me some crazy stories that happened with UFC one here in Denver, and future ones that happened a little bit afterwards as well that was here in Denver. And we always heard crazy stories of just things that would always go wrong, it seems like here, and then you guys would just have to prepare for it. Now, all of us, obviously, with New Mexico fights and up here, you have to deal with the altitude. Was it kind of a place that you guys frowned on just because you had so much else to do besides just with the preparation for the fights coming up?
Well, the one thing that I knew is that everyone else was prepared for the altitude,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the fighters knew. And the one thing about MMA is that guys traveled to train and trained with a lot of guys. And there were guys, a lot of the guys when we had, and I don't remember the complete card, but a lot of the guys that were on the card had already been to Denver
Yeah.
before we went there, and they were
Mm-hmm.
there training
Yeah.
Denver with Lister and other guys, and just
Oh yeah.
up in Denver, you know, just kind of working out and training just to get used to. They'd heard so much about fighting in the altitude and that it was different. I never really saw it,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew of it, and I knew that guys were going to, at some point, condition themselves and need to condition themselves to be prepared for that physically and mentally. So I always worked with it, and I didn't work around it, because when you work around something, you forget that it's there, baby.
Yeah.
You
Well,
gotta
and
through it.
yeah, well, and not only that, as a media member, I noticed that where you were basically exactly right, where you had some of these teammates or some of these guys that were with, somebody like a Cowboy Cerrone or other guys from Albuquerque or from the Denver area that would welcome a lot of these fighters like Jay Shields from California out to, Elevation Fight Team to basically train with them, either 2 weeks or at least 10 days beforehand. So they were ready to go and they didn't even have to care about the altitude when it came to fighting.
They always traveled, and they always shared, and that was one of the things that was very, very obvious to me between boxing and MMA, because the guy in boxing, when you trained, if you trained at Fifth Street Gym, you stayed at Fifth Street Gym.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't go to 6th Street or 7th Street or across town. You stayed in your gym.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't share your trainer with a guy that trained in North Philadelphia and you lived in West Philadelphia or South Philadelphia. But MMA, it was a little different, where guys shared trainers and guys shared gyms and shared moves and shared different things until it got close to the fight.
Yeah.
Then it got a little different. But I always remember, and you mentioned two of them. I always remember Denver because I always had a good time, and it was always cold as HE double hockey stick.
Exactly. Yeah. We always had horrible cards in there.
I was used to it because, as I said, I went to school in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
So going out to Denver was not too far, for me to go. But Denver and New Mexico, and I always remember New Mexico because the first time I was in New Mexico, I got knocked out. Okay, and that was the first time ever. We were in the arena, and I had to walk, and I think it was Kelvin Gastelum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's who it was. And I had walked into the holding area. Now, this arena, it was the first time we'd been there, so we had to improvise and put things together to make it happen for us for MMA in that arena.
Yeah.
So we had to put things, and we had to improvise with a lot of things.
Yeah. Was it Santa Ana and Rio Rancho? Was that the arena?
There you go.
Yeah, see, yeah, because I've covered a lot of those events and in Bellator and stuff, and I couldn't remember if it was in the pit or at the University of North New Mexico, or it was in Santa Ana. So that makes sense. So,
but we had the holding area, and you go to the holding area, and usually when you get to the holding area, it's just where the fighters begin their walkout to the cage, and sometimes there's a curtain and sometimes there isn't.
Yeah.
Here they had a curtain. And they had a curtain, if you can visualize this, that curtain might have been 15 feet high.
Yeah.
And it was on a bar.
Mm-hmm.
The curtain was hanging from a bar.
Yeah.
And the bar was connected to the side of the stand, and the other side was hooked into a clothes hanger.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm talking about a hanger that you have in your closet.
Yeah.
So, and it was a metal bar, if you can visualize that they had to weight on. Yeah. So when it was time for the fighters to walk, I had to rip the curtain open for the
Mhm.
fighters that came through. Well, I grabbed that curtain and I ripped it open. And when I ripped it, that bar jumped out of that hanger.
Uh,
That bar came down right here. Bam!
uh,
And you know what? I was, next thing I knew, I was in the ambulance going to the hospital, bro.
holy cow. You know, it's funny, and it's so many memories of down that in the arena in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, where it was covering Bellator, and you look at it and you're like, you know, this is a huge arena for the people in New Mexico, but it's like the First Banks Center when it comes to Denver and Colorado. So it's not a
Yeah.
Pepsi Center or Ball Arena where it's 15 to 17,000 packed. It's like maybe 5 to 7. So I could easily see it because I was on that floor, so I could easily
Oh,
see
it
it
was.
happening like that.
I got hit in my head, man, and I had no. All I knew, I pulled the curtain and I
Yeah.
felt it. I felt the
Oh,
thump,
yeah.
and I could see myself. I was still conscious enough to have him do the walk, but he was
Mhm.
worried about me because
Oh,
he
yeah.
saw me. He saw me get hit.
Yeah, yeah.
I was go
Yeah,
go
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
They're like,
did
we'll
it.
deal with this later.
Yep, I walked around to the back and fell out, man.
That's
I
insane.
it was yeah. It was kind of insane. Ended up in a hospital where hardly anybody spoke any English, and I'm sitting there
If you're in
already
Rio Rancho in Albuquerque, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
already didn't know where the HELL I was
yeah.
because I got hit on my head, and it was and then I saw familiar faces because the people that I had working with me came
Mhm,
in, and I had this one young lady, uh, her name is Bella, and she's from uh, Brazil,
mhm.
and I call her feisty because that's the way I call her, man.
Yeah,
And she came in and she was translating for me. But it was something, man.
yeah. Now, obviously, with the pandemic last year and stuff, what kind of got canceled in your world, and also, you know, what kind of rejuvenated so much stuff for you to be able to bring it back in 2021?
Well, it was not a good year for Burt Watson
Yeah,
Promotions
yeah, obviously.
because I did my very first fight
Mhm,
June 12th of 2019
mhm.
at the Seminole Hard Rock in Fort Lauderdale.
Yep.
And it was great, man. They had the arena. The arena held 6,000. They
Yeah.
culled it down to 3, and I had about 2,700 people in there,
Mhm.
which was awesome for me for my first fight.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a
Awesome for
beautiful
anybody
resort too. Yeah, it's
with
a
a
beautiful resort. Yeah.
oh man, awesome. But I had worked there for a minute,
Mhm.
so what they did was because of the fact that it was successful and worked. I got more dates from that. I actually had 3 dates from that. So from that, I was going to do March 13th,
Mhm.
2020,
Yeah, exactly.
June 12th, 2020,
Yeah, yeah.
September 25th, 2020.
Mhm.
Okay?
That's crazy.
All of them got canceled.
Yeah.
Every one of them, I mean, because of and then I was looking to do February 13th, which was it last weekend? Was it 13th?
Yeah,
And
yep. Yeah.
that,
Last Friday night. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Or last
everything,
Saturday. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, everything on my 4 dates that I was looking to do, we fell within this time frame. So,
Mhm.
promotion wise, and even now, unless you have such as the UFC or Top Rank in boxing, unless you have a major television deal,
Mhm.
it's hard to do a fight in an arena without fans
Oh yeah.
because that's your revenue.
Yeah.
That's where you get you. And I'd only been out 1 year, so I was trying to put together a television deal. And by that time, everybody shut down.
Oh yeah.
Nobody was giving television
No.
deals because there was
No.
nothing.
Yeah.
I
They had to fire some of their employees. Yeah. Yeah.
oh yeah. So I
Yeah.
really got kind of stuck in it. So
Mhm.
I was sitting home, and and I've been doing that since I left the UFC, just still with various regional promotions, and got with Alliance MMA and other things that I had done. But then I said, you know what? I'm going to do an event and this time I'm putting this on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm, you know, at this point in my career and at my age, I needed to do it and use my name. So I did it, and then, you know, the world got shut down with the pandemic, and so you know what, I sat home and I'm trying to recreate, trying to think about it. What am I going? So comes up one day, I picked up my phone and I saw somebody that I knew on Instagram Live,
Hmm.
and I said, "Oh, okay." So I got on Instagram Live. You
Yeah.
know, I figured, you know, I'm going to let people know what I'm doing and just kind
Hmm.
of get on before that fire burns out.
Hmm.
Because let me tell you something, son. In this world, you get one chance and one chance to f it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a one and one, and
Yeah.
you never know when that's coming.
Yeah.
So I jumped on Instagram and I did Instagram Live. I have 5 grandchildren that
Hmm.
I love, which I'm very fortunate. I got three children who are all educators, all grown, and I got 5 grandchildren. My
Nice.
oldest is 25. My youngest, I think she's 13.
Okay.
But I'm on Instagram Live, and one of them calls me and say, "Pop, why are you sitting on Instagram Live by yourself?"
Hmm.
Duh. And I'm thinking, well, what should they said you should probably be on there interviewing all those people you know.
Oh yeah.
Now, they had to tell me that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got on the phone. First person I called was Vitor Belfort. I
Nice.
called him and I said, "Listen, man, I'm getting on Instagram Live, and I want to, you know, can you sit with me for a minute and kind of work with me?" He said, "Oh man, I'll be glad to sit with you. You kidding me? Legend to legend. It'll be
Yeah.
great." He
There you go.
said, "Legend to legend. Bing."
Yeah.
The light, the light went off, you
Yeah.
know. So I then had a conversation from that point with MMA Junkie
Yeah.
about what I needed to do and how to do it, because I didn't. That's not my world.
Hmm.
And one thing I don't do is pretend to know when I don't know.
Yeah.
If I don't know, I'm gonna tell you. You know what? I
Yeah.
ain't got it.
Yeah.
Give me a little, and I'll get it. So,
Hmm.
you know, one thing led to another, and legend to legend,
Yeah.
MMA Junkie. You know, so.
Matt, can you tell us after Matt Hughes who you have lined up? Can you say that secret?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, you know, Matt Hughes, Randy Couture, the Gracies, uh, Rampage, Uriah Faber.
There you go.
Uh, I'm trying to figure out a way to do Anderson Silva.
Oh,
Uh,
there you go. Oh, that would
and
be brilliant.
Anderson Silva speaks
He's yeah,
no
a little
English.
mix of English and Portuguese.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but you know what? With right now, I'm looking at you. There's 2 of us on the screen. If you had another one, there'd be 3 of us on the screen.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm working and going at guys who have been around and been in the sport, be it MMA, boxing,
Yeah.
legends, you know, who have contributed to the sport and have left a mark and have left their name and
Yeah.
had left some kind of impression. And legends to legends could be in any sport or any profession. It's legends.
Yeah.
And I've got a few others that I'm working on, that I've kind of gotten on the phone and I've called and I've gotten okay. But I got to first learn how to spell my own name, and then
Hey,
I'll
either way, it's on the T-shirt. So if they can't figure it out, that's their own
I'll
problem.
be
So
okay. But I'm working on I'm working on some other legends,
okay.
and I'm looking to keep it in the form of entertainment. And I have, over the course of my time in the years, I can't tell you the people that I've run into who love combat sports,
Hmm.
be it boxing or MMA. You
Oh yeah.
know, some of the biggest names in entertainment. And I know when we first started, you know, Halle Berry's a fan,
Oh yeah.
and Mickey Rourke was a fan, and Steven Seagal was a fan, and you know, and these people are legends in their
In
own.
their own right. No, no, no.
So I'm reaching out. Once I get some traction under it, I'm going to be reaching out and just literally having a good time with it, man. You know, and with this history
Hmm.
here that I have behind me, and even that the UFC, and you see Rampage up
Yeah,
there, and
yeah, yeah.
you know, I can go back, but some of the guys are still very active, and I'm to see, you know, even looking now at some of the names, I see Eddie Wineland,
Hmm.
and you know,
It's
I
fighting
see him,
tonight. No, no.
you know, fighting tonight,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a lot of guys that I've worked with, and they're
Andre
guys,
Arlovsky. Yeah, Arlovsky that you've met with for many years. Yeah,
man, as a rookie, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
as a
His
rookie,
first
and
title win. Yeah, yeah.
yes, and there are names that I'm looking at that I'm you know, I'm
Yeah.
staying active and learning, but there are some that I'm not familiar with and that I
Hmm.
don't know. But I will say again that there is no excuse
Hmm.
for anybody not to make weight.
Yeah.
And anybody that knows me know how I feel about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's plain and simple. You got
yeah,
to do it. You
yeah.
got to do it. You got to put it into it, and you got to do it, man or woman. And I've never had a problem with the ladies, but I'll also, if I can say that, I'm also very honored and very proud of the fact that I saw the ladies come into the sport,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
saw the transition, because I was told at one point it would never happen.
Never happened. That's what Dana said. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't say who, but
Yeah. Well, we all know. We all know.
but
We
not
remember
only
that TMZ clip. Yeah.
but not only Dana,
Uh-huh.
but the world
Oh
was
yeah,
not ready
yeah, yeah,
for that. The world of
yeah,
sport, the
yeah,
world of sport was not ready when
yeah,
I did Layla Ali and Jackie Fraser. They weren't ready
yeah,
for Christy Martin,
yeah,
you know, when she came along. But then
yeah.
all of a sudden, I remember, I don't remember exactly which one, but Ronda Rousey and Liz Carmouche
Yep, yep,
was the
yeah,
first one that I did, and
yeah,
man, I was
yeah,
amazed with those
yeah.
ladies.
And I remember, before they even when Dana made that comment, there was somebody that was coming up through the local ranks, and we had her eye on her, and she ended up becoming a huge name, and her name was Kat Zingano, and that was a girl that was fighting here on the Colorado ranks, and then made it up to you. So
I gotta
it's
say,
great to see. I got pictures of Kat when she's on, a scale at a Hooters for weigh-ins for the fights. So you want to see from that to where she is now. It's
you know,
incredible.
I'll tell you something. I say it all the time that fighters and corners, you know, they're all my kids, all of them,
Hmm.
and because for some strange reason they were all always younger than I was. I was always the oldest, always the
even
oldest guy.
even Randy, yeah, that's a shock.
Yeah, they were all,
Yeah.
but they were all my kids,
Mhm.
and I've always been as proud of all of them. So I'm always careful with the names that I mention, because
Mhm.
I don't ever want any of my kids to think that I had a favorite in the house.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I did enjoy working with the ladies. You know, they were very, 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 very respectful. They always made weight. They were always on time. And I'm gonna tell you something, baby. When they got in there and that bell rang, you got a fight.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you
they
know.
scrapped. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Usually,
yeah,
usually, usually you start in the middle and you're on the canvas and you're up against the cage. You kidding me? They
yeah,
got out there, boy, and they scrapped, and most of them stayed on the name in the middle of the
yeah.
cage. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. You didn't see many decisions back in the day, especially with female fighters. So I wonder why that is. It's called more heart. That's what it comes down to,
But
and I think
well,
you're right.
it's also something I had a few Birdisms
Yeah. Hmm.
that I used to say all the time, and things like I said about making weight and being on time. I always said to them in the dressing rooms, never, ever, ever, ever leave it to the judges.
Yeah.
Because if you leave it to the judges, they're gonna make you cry. Now
Yeah.
I put it a little different.
Yeah, actually, Lisa Bowling on my Facebook page told me exactly what you meant when you said that. So, because Lisa was definitely in that locker room to hear you say that for many a time. So,
All the time, all
yeah,
the time. Don't leave it because they're gonna make you cry, baby.
yeah,
But you know, those were the things that I know they needed to hear, and
mhm.
and those were the things that I know they were thinking, but it needed to be reinforced because you know, and I said March 8th, 1971 was the first major boxing event that I saw. That was a
Mhm.
long time ago, bruh.
Mhm.
Still today, the judging is questioned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not necessarily the people, but
mhm.
just the judging of events.
Yeah,
You know, so I'm talking, and within 2 months, March 8th, 1971 would have been 50 years ago.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Mhm.
is it 50? I
Yeah,
think.
because I'm almost 40, so that'd be close.
There you go. So it's been that long that I wasn't the first one to say never ever leave
Yeah,
it to the judges, but I was the first one that told them
yeah,
to
yeah,
never ever leave it to the judges. I can tell you they'll make you cry, baby,
yeah.
without a second. But that meant, you know what? You fight your fight, and I said that your night, your fight. Get it right, baby.
Yeah. Final
What?
questions from me. Obviously, we really appreciate it. It's been an hour-long interview. I interviewed Art Davie 3 hours in a Denny's, so I could go all day. Trust me. I have so many questions for you; it's ridiculous. But the very last question for you is: Art Davie was lucky enough to get into the UFC Hall of Fame, and we pushed that for many years, and we thought it was way long overdue.
Yes.
2022 UFC Fight Fan Expo, if Dana White or the Fertitas or anybody in the UFC realm calls you and wants to induct Burt Watson into the UFC Hall of Fame, what do you say?
I'd be honored.
No,
I would.
I think
I
it
would.
needs to happen. No.
I would absolutely be honored,
Hmm.
uh, because it has now become a bigger part of history than when I was in it,
Oh yeah,
and now it is history.
it
So
is. Yeah,
I'd be honored to have something like that happen to
yeah,
me. You know, I can put it
yeah.
up there on that wall.
Yeah, you could definitely do it. Yeah, hopefully give you a ring or something. That'd be great. You'll have
Well,
a jacket either way. Yeah,
you know what? It's like legends to legend. You know, I mean, people around you let you know what you meant to them and history and life and sport. You know, and yeah, I'd be honored.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're honored to just have you today. We appreciate it. We're definitely going to have you on. We can't wait. We'll definitely be sharing all the MMA junkie videos of Legend to Legend. We
Man.
already put three. We got Chill, we got Rampager, we got Randy. We're just waiting for that Matt Hughes to drop, and we'll put it up.
Oh yes, it's coming soon, baby. And
Perfect.
you know, you just stick with me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Everything's under Burt Watson. Some of it's Burt Watson for real, but
Yep.
it's all under Burt Watson. And I'm lucky there's not more than one Burt Watson. So all you got to do is click on it, and I would appreciate it. But I enjoy being on your show. And
Thank you, sir.
anytime you
Appreciate it.
need me, baby, all you got to do is holler at me, Dave.
For sure. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Have a great night, sir.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, baby. For
Bye bye.
real.